So this is assignment 3 of Unit 3, Citizenship, Diversity in the Public Services. This one is all about equality of service, and as you can see from here, it's all going to be assessed with an interview and a report, and you'll find out more about that as we go through the assignment. So start off then the scenario. We're still following on with the Catch-22 initiative, but this time the stakeholders, rather than asking you to produce anything specifically like you did before, this is all about an interview. They just want to talk to you and find out what you know about the methods used to promote equality and diversity within the workplace as far as the Uniform Public Services is concerned. So learning outcome, as you can see, understand the role of public services in enforcing diversity and providing equality of service. Let's start off then straight away. As you can see here, I've put P5, M3 and D2 all together because one very much leads into another. And as usual, I'm going to start with the pass criteria, and you can see it's reviewed the methods used by public services to ensure they have a diverse workforce. Now, as far as the interview is concerned, I want you to understand that it's a very informal interview between yourself and me. The main thing to remember is that whilst I'm quite happy for you to bring notes into the interview to help you answer any questions and make your point, I can't allow you to read from the notes. So you can refer to them, have a look to refresh your memory and help you to decide what it is that you're going to say, but I can't let you sit there and read from them. So anyway, going back to the criteria to P5, and you can see here, to achieve P5 you need to review the methods used by the public services to maintain a diverse workforce. Now, what you need to be doing here is looking at things like recruitment strategies. And what do I mean by recruitment strategies? Well, it's about who the public services are trying to recruit, and why they are trying to recruit those particular people. And not only that, but what is in place to make sure that the people who are potentially recruited have everything that they need. So straight away you can refer back to the policies and procedures that we spoke about. So how the policies, procedures that the Uniform Public Services have in place go towards making sure that a diverse workforce is recruited. So people who are potentially looking at a career in the Uniform Public Services can look at the different jobs that are available and think to themselves, well, yeah, you know, they've got this policy in place, they've got that policy in place, and that's all going to make sure that everything that I need as an employee is there for me. Of course, also, you're going to be looking at preventing discrimination, and you know, we looked in class at case studies and how discrimination could have been prevented. And once again, the Uniform Public Services want to be proving that they are preventing discrimination from taking place. And associated with that, we also looked at the diversity of workforces, why that is important, what it brings, how it helps organisations and employees within organisations. And of course, part of that is going to come along with this part, which is the staff selection strategies. So why are staff being selected, and what can having those diverse staff bring to an organisation? Now, with both of these recruitment and staff selection strategies, I'd like to see you actually bringing into the interview some examples. So you might say, for instance, that recently the Royal Navy have had a big advertising campaign on TV. And when you look at that advertising campaign, you might want to look at the diversity that's represented in those people who they are using to recruit others. So they're going to be saying, okay, well, I'm this sort of person, but that didn't stop me from joining the Royal Navy. I come from here, or I come from there, and it didn't stop me joining the Royal Navy. You're also going to be looking at actual targeting of certain groups. So if let's say, police force is underrepresented, or rather certain groups are underrepresented in the police force, then it might be a case of the police actively recruiting people from those groups that aren't represented. And we could be looking at black and minority ethnic groups, BAME, black and minority ethnic groups. We could be looking at women as opposed to men. All these sort of things are what the Uniformed Public Services are considering in their recruitment and staff selection strategies. And then you can move on, as we can see there, to this part, the catering for employees' needs through support mechanisms. And you can see there the assignment brief includes staff unions, associations and federations, and of course the examples that we studied in class included, for instance, the Police Federation and the Fire Brigades Union. So you need to be including details about those in your interview. Of course, all this is part of the equality and diversity, and how the public services promote that, and how they say, we are an equal opportunities employer. We employ diverse, or people from diverse backgrounds. We have a diversity of employees, rather than sticking to one particular ethnic group or one group from one background. And then, of course, we're going back to what that again brings to the organisation. So that's the first part of the interview. I'm going to come on to the other pass criteria shortly, but in the meantime I want to go on to the merit criterion, which is here. Now this part is written, so you won't be including this in your interview. It's a written piece that you'll be handing in to me, and as you can see here, it's all about how well these methods work, and or conversely, do they work, and if they don't work, then why don't they work, etc., etc. Now, some statistics are going to come in very handy for you here. So your research should include things along the lines of black and minority ethnic groups, and how they are represented in the Uniformed Public Services. And choose examples. There's been plenty in the media, plenty advertised about this in newspapers and online, about how different groups are represented. So you might look at that research and say, well, that's pretty good. There's a pretty good representation of all these different groups. Or on the other hand, you might say, well, okay, in some situations, or perhaps in some forces, or perhaps in some police forces, or in the armed forces, yeah, that works pretty well, but in other areas it's not working at all. And the same thing applies with gender as well. You might look at some statistics that, yeah, it seems to be working as far as this is concerned, but it's not working as far as that is concerned. And again, we spoke in class about this sort of thing, and it won't take you too much to come up with um, examples that have been in the media and some statistics that will help you to support your work. Now, don't forget, you're going to have been planning your interview, what you're going to say in the interview, but at the same time, those of you who are attempting a merit, you need to be working on that written report. So you've got one part where you're thinking, okay, what am I going to say in the interview? And then the other part saying, okay, I'm going to have to produce this as a report. And that brings me on to the distinction part. And as far as the distinction is concerned, you're going to make further comments on the advantages and disadvantages. So you've said in the merit, okay, is this working or isn't it working? But here you're going to be saying, well, all right, that appears to be working and that's good, but is that really an advantage, or actually could it be a disadvantage? And lots of different angles that you could approach this from. You could, for instance, say, well, in a certain region or a certain force area, as far as the police are concerned, for instance, then yes, black and minority ethnic people are underrepresented. However, that area doesn't have a huge percentage of BAME people. In which case, why should the force be diverse if the population isn't? Or you could look at it from a national perspective. You could look at it in, from different aspects of different public services. You could say, well, okay, this is it's a real advantage to have, let's say, the Royal Navy as they're advertising at the moment, and it's a real advantage for them to have a diverse workforce, and it's good that they advertise that. But then again, you can't force people to join. So is it a question of them saying, we want you to join, but people don't want to? Or is it a case that people don't want to join because they've got the wrong idea about what being in the Royal Navy is all about? Of course, your own opinions, as in most distinction work, are important. And as you can see, you're asked to give recommendations for change as well. But you must ensure that it's not just your own opinion. It's good that you've got an opinion, but you need to be able to back it up with evidence and have something to support you in saying what it is that you're saying. So I think that covers certainly that pass, merit and distinction criteria. So I want to move on now to, excuse me, there we go, to P6. Now, P6 we did some considerable work in class regarding this. And this is all about the equality of service that the Uniformed Public Services provide. So really here we're looking at police, fire and ambulance service. And when you are doing this bit, so explaining the duty to provide a quality of service for everybody, you need to be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but are there any laws about it? And that's where the next bit comes in, which is here. And that's what it means by statutory requirements. So what does the law say? Does the law say that buildings have to be accessible? Does the law say that, for instance, homophobic and hate crimes have to be dealt with in a certain way? And so it goes on. So again, when you are preparing for your interview, you need to be thinking about all the duties that are included here, or everything that is included on the assignment brief. But you've also got to be looking at the statutory requirements part as well, so looking at it together with the law and what the law says. And we've done things about equality of opportunity and discrimination and the Equalities Act, things of that nature. They're everything that you should include when it comes to statutory requirements. Now, as you can see from this particular criteria, it's an explanation. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to explain things. Now, of course, with that explanation comes some considerable detail. And if you're explaining anything, whatever it might be, it's going to take you some time and it's going to take you some detail to do it. So make sure that you use the 2 weeks that you have available to you to really plan your interview. And let me give you a bit of advice. When you are being interviewed, if I'm happy with what you are saying and what you are telling me, and I'm thinking to myself, this student really knows what they're talking about, then I'll sit back and just let you talk. If I have any doubts or I think that you haven't included enough detail, that's when I'm going to start asking questions. And that's when it's going to become more difficult for you, because it's not a question of what you have planned to say, but it's a question of what you can think of to say at the time of the interview. And of course, that can be quite a challenge, because I'll end up putting you on the spot, and if you haven't got that knowledge that you need to have, then you're not going to get through the interview. Alright, so make sure you plan, make sure you've done your research, make sure you've got notes to refer to, make sure that you are completely and totally prepared for the interview. I know some of you are going to find it nerve-wracking, and I understand that, but from my perspective, if I'm ever in this situation, the more that I'm prepared and the more research that I've done, the more confident I am to answer. What I don't like is being in a situation where I've got to think right there on the spot and come up with a good answer. And I would recommend that you don't end up in that situation. Well, I think that's everything covered. Hopefully you've got a good idea about what it is that you're required to do. Of course, after I've handed out the assignment, you've got the usual 2 weeks to either prepare for the assignment if you're just attempting a pass, or for preparing the assignment and producing your report for the pass, or the pass and merit. That's as usual. Try not to be nervous, don't be concerned about it, but then again, don't turn up with a few words written on a little piece of paper and expect to pass, because with the best will in the world, you won't. You're going to need to prepare far more than that. Everything is on Moodle that we did in the classroom. My presentations are on there, so you can refer to them. Of course, you've got your notes to refer to. You've got the Level 3 Public Services book, and of course, you've got your own research. So everything is there. in place to help you pass the assignment. So all that's left for me to say now really is the very best of luck, and you've got 2 weeks. I'll speak to you about the hand-in date when I see you in class.